Good morning again, everyone. It's Pastor Amy. I'm here at the back of the sanctuary because this morning we are beginning a journey, going on the way with Jesus. But first, I just wanted to say a few things. As many of you know, I've been gone for several weeks. I had to have unexpected back surgery at the end of June. If you want to know all the gory details, I'll be happy to tell you. But suffice it to say, I have a lot of hardware in my neck that makes it difficult to go through airport security. I just want to say a big thank you to our lay leadership, to the clergy, and to all of you for being so wonderful in keeping the light of justice shining in this place. You'll notice a few differences over the next few months. I'm not using my left hand as much as I normally do. I can't hug you as much as I'd like to, and I'm gonna ask for your help. I received so many cards and flowers and food and calls from all of you. Thank you for taking care of me. The doctor fixed me, but I'm tired. I'm having trouble with my energy, and as some of you might suspect, I tend to go at things at kind of a fast speed. So I'm going to need you to help remind me to slow down. Will you? All right. We've had some amazing voices in the pulpit this summer, haven't we? Just preachers bringing the fire. I started to worry when I noticed that so many of them were women. But then I thought about the last 2,000 years, and I just got over that. I don't know how you're feeling as you're gathered here in worship. But over these last 8 weeks, I could do very little but sit and watch the news, which, I don't think helped much with the healing process. But I've been feeling a bit scared and angry and worried and sometimes, I'll admit, a bit hopeless when I see these images of white supremacists and hatred and the president signing his name on the wall. I just don't even know. What is this world coming to, and what does that mean for who we are together? So today, as we begin on the way with Jesus, we have to decide if we will be true followers of Christ, if we will create the beloved community that can change the world. This is exactly why communities of love and justice are so important. We need to keep reminding each other that the love of Jesus, that living into the gospel, can change the world. It really can. And so today we begin a series of preaching called On the Way with Jesus. Every week, we'll hear a passage of something Jesus said or did that opened to his disciples more about what it really meant to follow him. Those words weren't just for the first disciples. Those words are for us, too. So I'm going to invite you over the next few weeks to listen carefully, to consider whether or not you want to go on the way with Jesus. Whenever I read the gospel lesson from the 16th chapter of Matthew's gospel, or even hear those words read, as we did this morning, it reminds me of an experience that I had about 10 years ago at a large suburban grocery store. Now, I was then the mother of a 13-year-old boy, so no matter what I did, I could not keep enough food in my house, and we were out of milk again. So I just thought I'd run into the grocery store and pick up a couple gallons of milk on another errand. I made it all the way to the back of the store where the refrigerated section is, and I heard an announcement over the loudspeaker saying that there was going to be a free gift opportunity in the produce section in 5 minutes. The first 5 people who made it over to the produce section, starting in 5 minutes, would receive a special, one-of-a-kind gift that you do not want to miss. Every minute for the next 5 minutes, another announcement would be made. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. So I finally got curious, and I walked over to produce, and halfway there I could see a lot of other people walking toward produce. So I started rushing because, of course, I wanted to get my free gift. Turns out in the produce section, there was a big display promoting a company selling these magical heating pads, like you use when you hurt your back. And you had to stand there for 5 minutes and listen to the sales pitch, and then you could get your secret, special, one-of-a-kind gift. So naturally, I stood there and I listened, and seriously, those heating pad things started to seem so cool to me. You just had to press this little button and start this chemical reaction that would make the heating pad heat up. They had one for your shoulders, they had one for your hand, and for a limited time, you could buy their most popular product, the lower back version, for 50% off. After I heard that speech, I was completely sold. But then the woman asked if anyone had any questions. One of the people in the crowd raised his hand and asked her, out of all the options you're selling here today, which of these do you personally find the most versatile? The woman looked a little confused and said, "You mean me personally?" "Oh, I don't know. I don't use heating pads." Seriously? I mean, that ended any sale as far as I was concerned. Right then, I immediately found her whole presentation rather disingenuous. So I left to go get my milk, but not before picking up my free gift, a really cool cheese knife. I always think about this story when I hear this passage from Matthew's gospel, because whatever that woman was saying in that store was about to make me spend a lot of money buying something, and that's how good marketing works. Well, Jesus, who spent 3 years wandering all over Galilee, teaching a gospel of love and justice, seriously needed some marketing advice. Because the fundamental teaching in this passage, take up your cross and follow me. Whoever wants to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their lives for my sake will find it, just might be the worst marketing slogan in the history of the world. As we're on the way with Jesus over the next few weeks, trying to understand what it means to follow him in this world in 2017, imagine what it felt like that day to be one of the disciples. To set the scene, you have to flip back to the verses immediately before this passage. They describe a conversation Jesus was having with his disciples when he asked them, "Who do you think I am?" You might remember that Peter, the disciple who was always getting in trouble for a lack of filter before he spoke, he's the one who answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of God." An answer that just delighted Jesus. He called Peter blessed. He told Peter he would be the rock on which he would build his church. He gave Peter the keys to the kingdom. Now, I'm a cynic, so if I had to guess what Jesus was really thinking, I bet it was something like, finally. But you know, those disciples must have been high-fiving or fist-bumping one another, or whatever you did back then, hugging each other and laughing. In short, it was a great moment for everyone. But then, the very next verse our passage for today begins. Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and undergo great suffering and be killed. You can imagine the silence that fell over the group then. Way to kill the vibe, Jesus. It was a terrible marketing move. Terrible. But now that they finally knew who he was, Jesus had to move them past congratulating one another and help them understand the truth of what it means to live a gospel of radical love. Maybe he said something like, everybody, listen up. Your decision to live out the gospel is not going to go over well with people who enjoy power and privilege at the expense of others. Folks who feel very comfortable right now are going to start feeling distinctly uncomfortable. And when power is threatened, it always hits back hard. I'm not mincing words with you here. This is serious business. If you're really about following me, it's going to hurt. It might even cost you your life. You need to decide if you're all in, because there's no halfway when it comes to changing the world with the love of Christ. Well, we all heard what happened next. Immediately following this moment of joy, no-filter Peter speaks up and starts protesting, rebuking Jesus. The text says, God forbid it, Lord, this must never happen to you. I'm sure Jesus was thinking, wait until you hear what I have to tell you next. It's not just me I'm talking about, it's you too. But out loud, Jesus said something that I think is worth all of us noting, because we need to hear this too. He said, Peter, you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things. How do you make decisions? My parents always taught me the best way to make a decision is to draw a line down the middle of a piece of paper and list the pros and cons for each side of the problem. In the Quaker tradition, however, there is a process called a clearness committee. Some of you know that I used this process to help me decide whether I should move to New York and answer the call to become your pastor. A clearness committee, as I experienced it, is a group of people, maybe 5 to 7, from different parts of a person's life who agree to help that person find clarity about a hard decision. Though they vary in style, generally a clearness committee will meet together once for about 2 to 3 hours, sitting in a circle, lighting a candle, beginning with silence or prayer. And then the person struggling with the dilemma will voice what's going on. After that initial declaration, she sits silent for 2 or 3 hours. The people in the circle do not tell her what to do. They rather raise questions, make observations, state truths that they can see. It was after my own clearness committee experience that I knew I would come to New York if called, because all of the people in that circle named every difficult question, every potential grief, every single fear that I had been carrying deep in my heart, but I couldn't say out loud. They told me the truth. And once I heard the truth, I knew in my heart exactly what the landscape of this decision entailed, and I was able to know the answer right here in my gut, in my heart. Jesus is telling his first disciples and us the truth about what it means to live the gospel. And I don't think it's coincidental that he tells Peter he's setting his mind on the wrong thing. Because to make a decision to follow Jesus, to live my life, to live your life, to live our life as the Riverside Church, it just won't do to write up a pros and cons list. The decision is riskier, deeper, bigger than we can even imagine. This is the great paradox of the life of faith, put so eloquently by Jesus in this passage. If you want to be my followers, you'll need to take up your cross and follow me. Those who want to save their lives will lose them, and those who lose their lives for my sake will save them. The disciples didn't know that. And frankly, we don't either. We like to water down the gospel message so much that when Jesus said, "Give up your life," Jesus meant, give up your life. But really, in the world we live, can we afford to do anything less? It's a mess out there, folks. Today is Labor Day, so we especially want to call to mind people who cannot earn a living wage, who live in desperate poverty, who are exploited by unfair and unethical labor laws and policies. But in addition to that, if the election of Donald Trump has done anything good, it has surely shown us that living as a follower of Jesus Christ in America today will not allow us to muddle along hoping for the best. We have to decide to follow Jesus. We have to decide who we're going to be as people in a world filled with evil and hatred. And we have to decide who we, the Riverside Church, is going to be in this moment when the country and the world think that Christian leaders spend all their time writing hateful statements about LGBTQ people and preaching prosperity while people drown outside the doors of their church. Friends, we have to decide, will we embody the radical love of Jesus and accept nothing less for ourselves, for our church, for this world? The next few weeks, we're beginning a journey on the way with Jesus. And Jesus was right then, and he is right now. What we decide could very well be a matter of death or life. Amen.